Should you start a short-term rental business in 2022? Great question. Well, first of all, you have to look at what kind of business are you looking to start? Really step back and ask yourself, do you want to have an active business or are you trying to build passive wealth? See, a lot of people think that they need to get into business in order to be successful. And I know several people that still have a 9-to-5 day job and they have lots and lots of wealth and they have cash flow. They have passive income, as passive income can get. The reality is that you have to look at what are your financial goals and what's your timeline, what's your horizon? Because if you're just focused on, I'm gonna start a business because everybody on the internet says I should start a business, you're probably gonna have to deal with a lot of hurdles and might even lose motivation along the way. The reality is jumping into a short-term rental business without understanding what kind of business you're building is a lot like jumping into a relationship with having no goals, no expectations of the relationship, not having any sort of indication of what kind of partner you want. You're just jumping in blind, right? And you're gonna figure it out along the way, which is fine. A lot of people are successful that way too. But what we looked at whenever we wanted to start this business is we took an actual program on real estate investing that had every kind of strategy you can imagine, from commercial properties to subject twos, lease options, wholesaling. I think I already said the subject twos, but it just had every option, right? And then we also took the short-term rentals segment. And once I learned about short-term rentals, what it really comes down to, I like building systems. I like delegating and getting my time back. For me, the goal was time freedom. So I can have the freedom of time and location to be able to travel, explore, go spend 6 months over traveling around the world. And that's the whole reason why we wanted to build this business, is that rental systems create that passivity and wealth. They create passive income if you do it correctly. So when you go dive into short-term rentals, there's probably like 10 different use cases of what a short-term rental could be used for. Here's some examples. Furnished housing for nurses, furnished housing for contract workers, corporate execs, right? Corporate executive travel, people coming in for airline hostesses and pilots that need a place to crash overnight, right? Crash pads. Insurance claims. We do get inquiries about insurance, housing. So companies trying to place their client who is dealing with a house repair or house being damaged from a storm. You get medical travelers, so not the nurses per se, but the people that are traveling for the treatment. You also get people traveling for vacation, right? So if it's either a natural destination like a mountain or a mountain resort or national park or something like that. And you also get people just traveling to the beaches and to places like Six Flags and SeaWorld and those kind of theme park-esque, like family retreat kind of thing. You also get corporate retreats. So corporations that are traveling as a group, right? They might take their whole sales team or their whole HR department or something like that on an excursion, and it might be only 2 hours away. And so those are just some of the different use cases. And what you have to look at is what's available in the area and who you want to serve. Once you know who it is that you're actually trying to serve, who's your ideal client, then you can start looking at the systems that you need to implement in order to make that system run. You can start looking at properties and areas that you want to be in. Like for example, if you know you want to serve wedding guests and vacation travelers, then you might ought to look outside of a major metro, because a lot of times weddings are not done in the city, they're done outside the city. And if you're looking for vacation travelers, you might want to look near a lake, mountain resort, that sort of thing, near the beach, right? Those are kind of the markets where people want a vacation. They want to get away from the city and they want to go out into wilderness, nature, experience the coast, experience the mountains, experience nature. The other kind of traveler that we like is the person traveling for work. Now that could be someone that's traveling for treatment of their friends and family, for medical reasons. It could be someone that's traveling for work service. So someone that is a nurse, a doctor, a construction worker, a crane operator, right? We have a gentleman up in South Dallas that's staying with us. He lives about 4 hours away and he operates a crane every single day for 12 hours. So those kind of work-related travelers, people that are corporate executives coming into town that are working at they're coming into a convention for a crypto trading conference, they're coming in for a business conference. You can also focus on people that are relocating for work. So they're coming from one city and they're moving and they need a place temporarily. We've got people that are doing rehabs on their houses. We've got people that are stuck because of insurance claims. They need a place for 3 or 4 months. So those are kind of the work travelers, right? So we have vacation and work, pretty much. I like to kind of group them together like that, because if you're looking for a work-related traveler, some of the things you can control, like being near a convention center, being near a hospital, being near an airport, the things you can't control are where someone's gonna need insurance housing. But if you actually think about it, you can kind of control that, because here's an example. If you guys know where Louisiana is, and if you know where New Orleans is, you look at New Orleans gets hit with a hurricane pretty much like once every year. So if you are wanting to invest in an area where there's going to be a lot of insurance claims, then what you might want to look at is 50 to 100 miles outside of New Orleans. Because what happens is when the hurricane rolls through, it damages everything that's within 25 miles of the downtown metro, or up to 50 miles. A lot of those houses, those customers, or those people get displaced, right? Because they need to move out of their property while the insurance goes and fix all the property. And then everything that's around that area becomes high demand because they don't want to go move across the country. They want to move, 50 miles away so they can be out of the water blast zone, but at the same time, they have a safe, clean, affordable place that they can stay while the insurance company and the repair companies come in and they fix the place. That's another avatar that you can host is traveling contractors that are coming from another part of the state to come up and service that area and fix those houses. So a lot of construction workers, a lot of water restoration companies, a lot of different places like that will reach out to you if you're in the right area and you picked a market that's going to have that predictability. So what happens is if you're in, say for example, you want to target vacation travelers in downtown New Orleans, well, you probably want to have a lifted apartment that's going to be able to weather the storms. And then if you want to also be serving that supporter community outside of New Orleans, then what you can do is look 50 miles outside of the city and you can go pick up some apartments that might not do super well whenever there's not a storm, but when there is a storm, then suddenly demand pushes people out that way. And so you're now providing housing for people that need it and not just want it. Whereas in New Orleans, you've got people that want it, and it really comes down to supply and demand, which if you are familiar with New Orleans, supply and demand, there's a shortage of quality, high-end short-term rentals in New Orleans, and especially during festivals. We went to Voodoo Fest a couple years back. Voodoo Fest, we had to book a place up in Baton Rouge because there was nothing available in New Orleans for less than $400 a night. And we're talking like a 2-bedroom apartment for $400 a night. So great example of surges in demand. And by having a balanced portfolio where you have a blend of both, you're not reliant on the high season to carry you through the rest of the year. You have high season for the vacation type oriented homes, and then during the slow season of vacation homes, you have more of the corporate housing or the workforce housing or necessary housing. That's not so much a luxury, it's more just a need. So now once you kind of understand what type of client you can serve, now what you can start doing is looking at markets. You want to look for markets that have low supply but high demand for the type of client that you're looking to serve. So for example, if you're looking to serve a medical traveler and medical workers, you probably want to look in a market that has major medical centers. I'm not going to give you specific markets, but I'll give you an example of a market that we've looked at in the past. Cleveland, Ohio is a great example of this type of market because there's a major medical center, the Mayo Clinic. Now that's just an example. I don't want you to think that I'm saying like, hey, you should go invest in Cleveland, Ohio, because then you have to start looking at supply and demand. Is there a lot of supply of that type of housing to serve that type of client? You can go over to sites like Mashvisor and Airbnb and rent all the rooms and start looking at short-term rental rates, and then go look at a website like Rentometer to look at long-term rental rates, and then start looking at websites like Zillow and Realtor.com to just look at what the prices of houses are and what kind of payment you'd be looking at, because that would help you understand whether it's better to buy or to rent. Another great resource is you can go check out AirDNA's website and look for, when you go to Google search, type in airdna.com and then space, and then look for arbitrage data. And this will kind of show you some markets that have high short-term rental demand and low long-term rental rates. What this is, basically this is like the holy grail of short-term rentals, because if you understand what kind of client you want to serve, it'll help you compete in that market. That being said, if you're just trying to go with a broad approach where you're just like, we want to serve everybody, then if you go to this arbitrage data and you look at this data first, it'll help you get a better idea of which markets to explore in detail. If you look at markets like Miami and Austin, there is a ton of operators and there is a huge demand. That being said, do you really want to jump into a market where there's a lot of competition right off the bat? Or would you prefer to go for a smaller market or a lesser known market where there's less competition, less demand, but you can get a bigger market share faster? I would prefer the latter, especially knowing what I know now. So that being said, now you're looking at markets and you're exploring markets because you know who you want to serve. You're looking for the best market fit for that type of client. And then you start looking for the units. You don't want to do it in reverse. You don't want to go look for units and try and find cheapest unit and then go try and work reverse, because now you're trying to fit a product to possibly a need versus finding a need and then fitting the product to the need. We always, as marketers, we want to focus on, because that's what we are, is we're marketers. We're marketers of real estate, we're marketers of, maybe you're in the car business, maybe you're in the medical sales business, whatever. You're trying to find a market with a need and match the need to your product. So as marketers of this type of product, what we're looking for is we're looking for demand and a lack of supply. So you dive into the data, you start looking at specific markets and reverse engineer, is there a need for my particular type of use case? A great example would be if you're a traveling nurse, you know all the pain points and problems that a traveling nurse has to go through. And you know every time you've had to stay in a crappy hotel or you've had to stay in furnished housing that was below your expectations, what to look for and opportunities to improve. Another example would be if you're a traveling consultant. Do you prefer staying in a hotel where you have no kitchen and you have to eat out every single day and you have to try and go to a gym and like you have to go sign up for a temporary membership for 5 days or whatever, however long you're in that city? Or would you prefer to have a furnished apartment with a gym, with a kitchen so you can cook healthy meals at home and all of the amenities that you're used to at home available for the length of stay that you're going to be there? I don't know about you, but whenever I travel, I prefer to stay in a home type setting because I don't like eating out every single day. I don't like having to try and do dorm room, microwave dinners and stuff like that while I'm on the road. I would prefer to be able to go grocery shopping for 5 or 6 days, buy all the food that I need, cook healthy meals, have a healthy breakfast, and have a healthy lifestyle while I'm on the road. So that's the type of client that we usually like to serve. So those are some of the use cases. Now what you want to do is you look for a specific market where you see an underserved need and then go try and fill it. That's where you start getting into looking at specific properties, running the numbers, doing the analysis, seeing what kind of rates you can get in terms of long-term rentals and then short-term rentals. And if there's not enough of a delta, then you can go into that market and you can compete. Because what happens in all markets is as more people get into the game, you start having margin compression. And margin compression is where you think you're gonna make $3,000 a month and then 25 other people jump in and now suddenly you're making $2,000 a month. Well, if you have the lowest possible rental rate and you've held on to it for a long period of time, you're gonna be able to compete better because you can lower your prices enough to still get customers and be able to compete. Whereas other people are jumping in at higher mortgage rates, they've got more expenses, they might be doing longer, higher rental rates as rental rates change. Again, it all comes down to your cost and what's your margin on your properties. We target 30%. If you can get higher than that, that's great. But usually with this rental business, you're wanting to target at least 30% margins. If you can't get 30% margins, what happens is you don't have enough occupancy to hit your target goal, or you don't have enough cash flow coming in to be able to weather the down season. So that's a really important thing as well to know. From there, if you guys are still looking for more information, you can check out my website, learn.airbnbinvesting.com. I have some information on there. I've got some calculators and some other great details. Feel free to also check out the videos on this channel as well. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon to get notified when I come out with future videos. If you're on Instagram or Facebook, I do share a lot of content on my YouTube channel. So if you go over to YouTube and you search for Cri, C-R-I, Childs, I'll pop up first. And then from there, you can check out all my videos on short-term rentals, long-term rental, short-term rental, which is better. We have a lot of information about just investing overall, because what comes down to is if you can make $600 or $700 a month as a long-term rental with someone in there for 12 or possibly longer months, if that's the type of market you're in, great, go ahead and do that. Build a portfolio, hire a manager at 10%. You've got enough margin there to where you can still make great cash flow and build wealth. If you're like me and you're looking to build a lifestyle and a business that works towards your lifestyle, as opposed to the other way around where you work for your business, then you might want to consider doing short-term rentals, arbitrage, co-hosting. You might want to consider buying and short-term renting, because as long as you're in a market that allows it or that is conducive to it, you can make some great returns and make some great cash flow, which is what we're all here for, right? Cash flow. Because cash flow builds confidence and it also builds a lifestyle. Whereas equity is something that everybody's chasing, but reality is that you can't eat bricks, right? One of my mentors once said that to me. It's like, you can't eat bricks, so you have to build for cash flow. Equity is the long-term vision, but if you're building a business that cash flows, you are building equity in a business. So make sure you're doing it right. Make sure that you're doing your research. It's okay to not jump in face first into something and fail, but at the same time, don't research, and then never do anything, right? Go out and start talking to people. Ask people questions. The best thing you can do is say, why? Really, why? Tell me more about that. Go to a local meetup. Go attend some multifamily meetups. Go attend some real estate for single family meetups. Network with people and ask questions. Because what's going to happen is you're going to start learning different viewpoints and different perspectives And you'll also notice that younger people are more risk tolerant and older people are more risk adverse. So now you have different people you can work with. Younger people you can co-host, older folks you can do rental arbitrage and give them that guaranteed passivity, that consistent cash flow that they're looking for. As long as you're doing research and you can make money too, you should be all set. Thanks guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time.